Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of Lessons from Success. This week we interview Abbey Cameron. Now she is one of the most hardworking, passionate and genuinely enjoyable entrepreneurs I've ever been around. Abbey runs Nourish'd, which is a meal delivery company here in Queensland, and she actually places importance on health instead of portion size like everyone else. Please do be aware though that there is some swearing in this interview, as I don't believe changing her personality for the sake of a few swear words would be worth altering any of the interview at all. Now, Abbey does give terrific advice on being a woman in the male-dominated space of entrepreneurship. She also gives advice on how being yourself is a key to success, and so much more. She's an absolute inspiration to everyone in business, and I recommend everyone watch her space as she's set to do so much for the community in the coming years. Now don't forget to give us a follow on Instagram at lessonsfromsuccess_podcast and on Facebook at Lessons from Success. If you'd like to get our live updates, you're also welcome to jump on to lessonsfromsuccess.com.au and sign up for the newsletter. Until then, enjoy! Thank you so much for coming on, Abbey. We have Abbey Cameron here from Nourish Meals.
Hi! I'm always like that shock of surprise and I've got to speak now. Sorry, hi, how you going?
No worries. Thank you so much for being on. So tell us a little bit about Nourished Meals and where it all got its start and what it's come into so far.
Yeah, it's 5 years ago in 2 weeks' time that we incorporated the company, which I can't believe because I still run around telling everybody, we're a startup. And I'm like, at what point are you not a startup anymore? You're 5 years old.
You're a company now.
We are
you
a
graduated.
Company. Yeah, shit. We don't feel like it. We still feel like children pretending to figure it out as we go. So it came about 5 years ago, almost to the day. I was sitting in a cafe with my now husband, whinging about food prep. We were just spending all of our weekends doing food prep. We were both working these corporate jobs. I was commuting to the Gold Coast every day for work at the time, and I was like, I don't want to do food prep anymore. We earn decent wages. Let's buy it. Let's have it delivered to our homes. Both super on the paleo bandwagon at the time. I'm gluten intolerant and my husband is lactose intolerant.
Oh, wow.
So Googling, and there was just nothing. All these healthy food companies that were just full of shit. Sorry, if your ingredients have sugar, if they have sauce that you don't list out the ingredients, which is mostly sugary, and if they're full of preservatives, if they've got processed carbohydrates, it's not healthy. So my husband said to me, let's just start a company. Let's just do it. Let's make our own food. And I hated my job at the time. So 5 days later, resigned. 4 weeks later, didn't work for another company anymore. And 6 weeks later, we launched the website and off we went.
That is amazing. Are you still paleo to this day? Or?
I really kind of had a flip, and you can see this when we talk about the brand transition from Caveman Kitchen, which we were when we started, to now being Nourished. Into, I don't really say, I'm this or that or the other. I just know what works for me and I eat what works for me because every body is different and you should treat your body the way that you need it.
That's so true. I did a keto diet for a month, and so did a friend of mine, and a friend of mine did exceptionally well, thought about remaining on there. He was feeling amazing, and I don't know where my ancestry was, but it was clearly not around fat. It was all carbohydrate because I was dying.
I could not cut carbs out of my life.
No.
I just couldn't do it.
No.
So, and I really felt that paleo was super restrictive. It was like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. Whereas I would rather say to me and say to our tribe and just to anybody, think about what you can eat. That's so much more positive than just going, no, I can eat beautiful whole vegetables and I can tolerate some dairy. So yeah, Ben and Jerry's and I have a really great relationship about once a fortnight. So I just worked out what worked for me, and that's the philosophy of Nourish'd as well. Just real food delivered, and you work out what works for you.
So tell us a little bit about the meal offering. So I looked on there and there's definitely a different assortment there. You've got your bulking meals, you've got your maintenance, you've got, if you wanted to lose weight. Tell us about the meal offerings and how you've sort of created those.
Yeah, so I'm not a nutritionist. My husband is not a nutritionist. We work with one to create the meals. But essentially we said, what do people want and how do we make that happen? Not what can we do and then force on people. And that has been the philosophy of our business for the last 5 years. It drives web developers fucking insane because they're like, no, this is the mold. This is how you do it. That's not how we do it. We're going to have 3 portion sizes that we offer people because why should I, as a 5'2", 58 kilo, sits behind a desk most of the day female, be told, well, you should be eating the same portion size as a 6'4" tradie? That's ridiculous.
That's just not going to happen.
No. I know tradies that have been with other companies that are ordering 2-3 meals to have in one sitting because the portion size isn't big enough for them. So we wanted to say, everybody's different, so let's have 3 portion sizes. Everyone's got different tastes, so we're not going to have a set menu that we tell you have to eat every week. We're going to have 15 different meals every week and you can choose whatever you want. So for some people it's like, well, I want to eat standard meals for breakfast and I want to eat the same breakfast every day of the week. So they order 7 of those, but then I want to eat a large meal for lunch because I've got a big afternoon coming up. It's modelable. That's not the right word. It's moldable. I don't think that even is a word, but for your own life to work with you. Whereas you go to some of the other companies and it's 1 portion size, or other companies it's here's your menu for the next 2 weeks. Yeah. And if you want to lose weight, if you want to gain muscle, if you want to improve your health, but someone's telling you exactly what you have to have, you're not going to stick to it because forcing yourself to eat something you don't like is not sustainable long term.
And that was a big problem I did have with some of the other companies where you get a meal in and it'd be 300 calories, for example, and you have 3 of those a day and that's $30 a day. And I've got 900 calories out of $30 a day. And I'm sitting there going, that's great, but I need 3,000. So where's my other 2,100 calories coming from? And that's just to maintain.
Yeah.
So like if I wanted to put on muscle, I'd be spending $150 a day on food with them. I'm not too sure. It just doesn't seem plausible at all. Whereas you guys, you have a really great set meal plan. And I haven't tried one yet. I'd love to. And it all looks absolutely delicious as well.
Oh, thank you. We're super product obsessed.
Yeah.
So we still don't spend a huge amount of money on outbound marketing. We decided, it was about 3 years ago, that with our marketing budget, we were going to take 50% of that and we were going to apply it to product. So we were going to spend more money on chefs to get the best in. We were going to spend more money on ingredients to get the best quality ingredients in. And what that led to was better word of mouth referral. So that takes a shitload longer than going out and spending $10,000 on a Facebook ad where people are going to come in and they're going to buy and their expectation maybe isn't going to be met, so they're never going to buy from you again. Whereas taking 18 months to really perfect your product and to get these brand ambassadors on board being your customer. So your customer buys it, they love what you do, they become an ambassador for you and they tell all their friends about it. When their friends come and buy from the website, their buyer's resistance is immediately at least half of what someone is coming in cold. So I don't have to try and sell as hard to them. I don't have to try and encourage them to spend more money because they'll do it anyway. And our data shows us they stay longer, they spend more, they become ambassadors and they tell other people.
Yeah. Obviously, you've touched on it a little bit, but how are you different, I guess, not just in terms of portion and things like that, how are you different to a lot of the other companies that are doing similar to what you're doing?
We just give a shit about our customer. So the mission for Nourish'd is to be the best meal delivery provider in this country. So the best isn't defined by how much revenue are we bringing in, what's our bottom line profit, how many units are we selling each week, how many customers are talking about us on social media. We define the best by ratings. So our star rating at the moment is 4.9 from all of our reviews. So we have had, of all of our reviews, 4 that are not 5-star.
Wow.
2 of them are 4 and the other 2 are customers that we made mistakes with, and we have since turned them around and they are still customers with us.
That's great.
Which is really awesome. So that's how we define being the best. I kind of touched on it before, but that leads to slow growth, not overnight we're going to be this $1 billion company, or in 2 years we're going to be raking in millions and millions of dollars. But the foundation that we have created has led to us still being around 5 years later. There are 8 companies in the last 18 months that make pre-made meals that have gone under.
Really?
And I truly believe it's because they don't focus on their customer and iterate and pivot for what their customer wants. Who we are today compared to who we were 5 years ago is very different because we've followed our customer's journey with them and just continue to provide them with the best service, the best product that there is on the market, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. speaking about 5 years ago, so how did it all start? So you were Caveman Kitchen once upon a time?
Yeah, so we were this paleo food company. We were going to ride the paleo wave. We believed in paleo. I was a cult CrossFitter. I was that jerk that's constantly talking about CrossFit.
So was I.
And I love CrossFit. I think it has an amazing place. I would love to say I still do it twice a day, but 2 kids under 2. Not so much anymore. But yeah, that's kind of how the whole company started. And we knew very early on, I would say 18 months in, that the brand Caveman Kitchen wasn't right for what we were trying to achieve. The alignment wasn't there with our values. But it was still just the 2 of us predominantly, and the idea of a rebrand was so big and so exhausting. And when we talked about it, there was never a clear new brand that we could create. But I was so fortunate to bring on just over a year ago a dear friend of mine that I've worked with for so long to be our marketing manager. And when I said rebrand to her, her whole face lit up and she was like, yes, Abbey, yes, we need to do this. So we sat down. There were 5 of us in the team at the time, and we got 2 whiteboards and we just threw out every word that we associated with what we wanted to be and what we were. And there were some really shit ideas on there. But Nourish and Nourish'd just kept coming up over and over and over again. And so we went with Nourish'd. And you'll notice we spell it differently. We have that gimmicky apostrophe at the end, which is actually purely because I went to buy the URL nourish.com.au with the correct spelling, and somebody already owned it and was just parked on it. And I got in contact with him and said, hey, I have just registered a company in this name and I would like to buy this URL from you. What are you selling it for? And he asked me to make him an offer. I was like, cool, I'll give you $750 for it. And he came back and went, absolutely not. I want $14,000. So we registered Nourish'd with the apostrophe. We went out to our customers and said, hey, we're rebranding. We know that we don't spell the word right, but it was going to cost $14,000. And we thought that there were better things we could do for you, our tribe, with 14 grand than give it to some a-hole that registered the name and is just parked on this website that's doing nothing. So
yeah, and joke's on him now because no one's going to come in and compete with you guys.
Well,
Nourish, so.
yeah, no, I mean, you search Nourish now, and if Google thinks your intent is to find a meal delivery service, it's just showing you us. And you're right, no, who's going to buy that from him in Australia now? It's at .com.au, so...
And he wanted 14 grand for .com.au.
$14,000.
Maybe if it was capital or real estate or something like that, but no.
Yeah,
Right.
And we still operate on a lean business strategy. And the things I could do with $14,000 on Facebook,
it'd be crazy.
on product, on influencer marketing, no.
Yeah,
no.
it's not going to happen.
No.
So that was the whole rebrand. So you Caveman Kitchen to Nourish'd. Did you notice a hit back straight away as soon as you rebranded, or was it a bit of a slow sort of process getting the rebrand sort of up and running?
No, it was pretty quick. We went against the advice of every rebranding strategy that I've ever read, and we banged it out overnight.
Wow.
So there was a lot of prep that obviously went into it, but we turned off Caveman Kitchen and we became Nourish'd overnight.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast on this the other day and no, you should do it slowly, like when these big companies did it, when BP did it or Caltex or whoever. I'm like, yeah, cool. When you've been around for 1 million years and you've got billions of dollars, sure, start by changing one subtle colour and then one subtle thing. But let's not let my ego get in the way. We're a tiny fucking company. Let's just rebrand and make it happen so we can focus on other things. So we did it overnight. We knew that our Google rankings were going to tank. So I did a lot of research beforehand. I worked with an SEO guy. And so they didn't actually drop as much as we thought, and we had them back to where we needed them to be within 2 weeks. Super important.
Wow.
40% of our traffic to the website and 70% of our sales come from Google search.
Wow.
So it was a massive one that we knew we had to get right.
Yeah.
But it's not as big and scary as you think. I literally Googled how to rebrand for Google, and Google has its own step-by-step guide on what it wants you to do before, during, and after, and we just did that.
People love to make things more challenging than they have to be all the time.
Oh my God. It's how people justify their jobs, I think.
100%.
Yeah. No, that's really hard. You know what? It's not.
Yeah. You can get that done in a day and you know you can. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how we did it technically there. And then our current customers really accepted the brand really well. Literally just got an email from a lady yesterday that just said, I just love the new brand. I just think, it's over 6 months old now. She said, I just think it just really aligns with who you are and what you do. It's fresh, it's clean, it's no bullshit. We don't lie, we don't make things up, we don't have marketing spin on anything. It's just real food delivered, and Nourish'd just marries up with that so well. The beautiful white space that we have on the website now, that fresh green colouring that we have in there with a hint of orange, whereas Caveman Kitchen was these deep maroon and deep yellows. It was a very masculine
paleo
brand,
sort of.
And it didn't resonate with women who, they make up 50% of our market. So this brand, I think, resonates with men and women. It resonates with people as soon as they hit the site and just see that fresh, clean approach to what we're doing. That's what people want from their food, right?
Yeah,
they don't want to see these colours in this brand and think heavy, difficult. They just want to see fresh, clean, whole.
And you know what's interesting about paleo, which I would have never even thought about? I was talking to a friend of mine that's a girl about paleo, and she's like, well, I don't want to do that because then I just stack on weight. And it's definitely, it's got that thought process, unless of course you're an avid CrossFitter and all those sorts of things. It's got that thought process of like, it's for gaining muscle or it's for gaining something.
Yeah,
it
you just eat protein. Actually, you eat way more protein on a keto model than you do on a paleo one. And the new brand lets us be much broader than paleo as well, because it's not right for everyone. So I would say 90% of meals on the menu still fit into a paleo mold, but then we have the keto range, and then we're looking at launching a vegetarian range. And for us to stay true to our beliefs around macronutrients, we can't have a vegetarian range that doesn't have proteins in it. But how do we do protein on a paleo? You can't, because we need legumes. We need these beautiful ingredients in there that can be so healthy for you if you just eat them in the right way. That we didn't want to be defined by paleo anymore. And as soon as you use the word caveman, people just say 100%. Paleo.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about you as an entrepreneur now. You're one of the few entrepreneurs that I know that has managed to also raise 2 lovely kids.
Lovely is a loose term depending on the time of evening it is.
So how have you done all this? And you said about 6 months ago you did the rebrand. Was that about the same time that you had your second kid as well?
Yeah. Having kids while having a business is insane.
I can imagine.
It is freaking insane.
Having a business is insane. So chucking a couple kids in the mix as well is nuts.
And it's so funny. We decided to do it because we were like, we need a new adventure. And what haven't we done yet? We've done all this traveling and we've started a business and
oh my God.
We're married, so
what's next?
Let's do it. Let's see if we can. And we didn't know if we could have kids either. So when it happened really quickly, we were very surprised because there was a high chance we weren't going to be able to. So having kids has made me so much more resilient as a person and in this business. So I thought I was resilient before because there's that whole roller coaster of entrepreneurship and startup, which I don't think ever ends. And I don't think I ever want it to end, but having kids has made me super resilient because a lot of things happened at the same time. The day after my first child was born, I had to fire our one customer service person.
Oh, wow.
For a whole host of reasons that meant that she had to finish that day. So the day after my daughter was born, I was still in hospital, taking customer calls, sorting out delivery issues, which was both bad planning on our behalf because we didn't hire the right person for that role, but also a really good lesson in our systems up to scratch. How fast can we bring somebody else on? And the things that you just have to do when you're a parent and you own your own business. It's a very different ball game. You can't call in sick. And if somebody else calls in sick, you have to pick up that slack. So the last 2 years have really been a lesson in how do you manage both of those things in a way that sits okay with you. And I don't believe in work-life balance. I know for a lot of people that's a thing that they're trying to achieve, and I think that's great. But for me, I just have life, and all of those things intermingle with each other. So still to this day, my friends or my mum will say to me, "Why are you working at 7 o'clock at night? You know, that's not an appropriate time to be working." I'm like, well, for you, that's not. And that's totally cool because you've got this is my work time and this is my home time. But I just have life. So if at 7 o'clock my kids have gone to bed and I don't want to watch shitty TV, I'm more than happy to open up my laptop and work on that. But there's chances are that at 10 o'clock that morning, I was rolling around on the floor playing peekaboo with my 6-month-old because I've created an environment that I get to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been challenging. It's been rewarding. Right now with a almost 2-year-old and a 6-month-old, I would say it's the hardest it's ever been. Some days I feel like they don't get enough of me, and some days I feel like the business doesn't get enough of me. So I'm still working on being okay with that, not trying to find the balance. I do what I need to do when I need to do it, but just being okay with where I'm sitting with all of them.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it comes back. We spoke offline about how people just, the baseline is mediocrity and they don't really like their jobs very much and all that. So when they see someone like you working and raising 2 kids and working till these ridiculous hours of the night, they don't understand that you don't need work-life balance if you're truly enjoying what you're doing, right? And I get that's the biggest thing. Did you spoke before about your jobs prior to going into this sort of startup world. So what did you do exactly, and what made you hate those sort of roles?
I have just the strangest background. I started work in publicity and entertainment. So I was, like if you see a red carpet premiere and there's a star walking down I usually got the B-grade actors, walking down the red carpet and there's the person standing behind them with their clipboard, making everybody hurry up. Yeah, that was me.
Awesome.
That's what I did for a living. So I started that job on $32,000 a year.
Wow.
Working a zillion hours a week.
High stress environment as well.
Super high stress environment for no pay. And I became a raging alcoholic during that time. I remember one day having a massive blow-up yelling argument with a new office lady that we got because she decided that we weren't allowed to drink before 4 p.m. on a Friday. My boss and I would be like 1 o'clock every day, crack a bottle.
That's insane.
And yeah, it was not a great environment to stay in for a long time, but it taught me work ethic like I would never have received anywhere else. That taught me to work hard. Had a little quarter-life crisis, sold my house, left my relationship, went traveling for a few months before I came back. Was really fortunate to work at Dreamworld for a year after that in their PR department. So
cool.
Did some really amazing things with the Dreamworld Wildlife Foundation, which showed me that I needed to be working in things that I was aligned with my personal values. So I left there and went and worked in marketing for a massive hotel company in Australia.
Was that in alignment with your personal
Absolutely
values?
Not. And then I started to think about, why can't I keep a job for longer than a year? Why am I working in these environments where I'm constantly told, you're too loud, you're too aggressive, you're too much, you need to tone it down, you're not making yourself fit in with the team, and why am I always in these environments where I'm surrounded by women who work beside me, but the top levels are always men that are always getting paid so much more than everybody else? And so when the idea for this company came up, I think I so easily went into it because I was so tired of apologizing for who I was. And now I just flat out refuse to do that. I am unapologetically who I am. And that might come across as aggressive, but I surround myself with people that understand that that's passion.
Yeah.
And it might come across as bossy, but I surround myself with people that understand that that's me moving this company in the direction that it needs to go and how it's going to get better. And I refuse now to put myself in any environment where I have to apologize for being who I am. And that doesn't mean I get to be an asshole. That doesn't mean I get to be rude to people, because that goes against my personal values. It just means that I'm not going to diminish myself any longer. And that's why I'm the CEO of this company, because I don't have to do that. And I hire people that are aware of that before they go in. So the last stage of hiring for anyone that especially is going to work directly under me is for me to sit down with them and say, this is who I am. This is how I work. This is how you might perceive me, but this is what I'm trying to achieve. And before you accept this job, I need you to go away and think about whether or not that's what you can work with, because I will not change who I am for anyone.
And that's amazing as well, because you do notice in the corporate world, especially if you have to mold to be someone else, that you lose your personality so quickly. I know in my last job, won't mention any names or anything like that, but by the end of it, I was literally like an empty soul of who I used to be. And like even though I left to sort of go do other things, it still took a few months after I left as well to sort of become the person back to who I was, basically. And I noticed even though I might be doing more now, I'm definitely less tired and more, way more energetic, doing more hours, but being myself doing those hours, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. When you're aligned with your values and, I want to use the word purpose. It's such a buzzword now.
Oh, I just use it.
You're aligned with what you are, with who you are and what you should be doing and the best way for you to contribute to the world. When that happens, when you're getting dick all sleep, but you're still so fucking excited to go into the office the next day. When, as a parent, you are excited to go to your job, even though it means leaving your kids at home. You're aligned with what you're doing. And you're so right. The opposite of happiness is not unhappiness, because that unhappiness is telling you you're in the wrong place and you need to change something. The opposite is numbness, is mediocrity, is nothingness. And there were times in all of those jobs where I felt nothing, and I thought that was the goal. I thought, you get up and you go to work and that's what you do, and you hang out until Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Fuck that, man. Thank God it's Monday and you get to go into work and do something that you love and contribute to society. And if you are not contributing to making the world better, then stop what you're doing and find something that is. And I don't think that means you've got to go and work for Thank You Water or go and build orphanages in Africa. I run a food delivery service. For the most part, I'm serving wealthy people food. But I'm contributing to bettering the world by showing people standards of customer service so they no longer settle for shit customer service in other places. I'm showing people a working environment that is collaborative and that is growth driven and that is fast paced, and where if you're not happy, we want you to leave. We don't want you to be here if you're not happy, and we will facilitate moving you into a job where you are. That is contributing to the world.
Do you think that's why you've had such success starting up a business, is because you've remained so true to who you are throughout the entire process?
I think that it's such a funny question. I was just saying to one of my employees before that I have such imposter syndrome when people say anything about success. We're not, we are a 7-figure company now, but there are still weeks that I don't take a wage because it's more important to put it back into the company, or because cash flow means that to make payroll for everybody else, I can't pull a wage out of that. But, defining success is, I think, a really important thing for every entrepreneur to do. And I recently went through and did this again after you asked me to do this podcast, because I did feel like such an imposter. And now that I've built this great lifestyle for my family and I've brought employees in and I can see the growth path and where we're going, I do feel like, there is some success there. What was the question again, though? Because I've gone on a tangent and forgotten.
No, that's okay. So the question was, do you think you've achieved this success just because you've been you throughout the entire journey? And on a side note as well, with imposter syndrome, it doesn't matter where you get to, you'll always have that. And that's been my experience. Like, I've met some ridiculously successful people and they're still like, I don't really know if I should be on the podcast. And I'm like, well, I think you should, because, the 8-9-figure companies, I think you're probably okay. But I don't think that ever goes away.
Okay, good. We're all humans, right?
Exactly. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all cut from the same cloth. We can all achieve the same sort of things. We've got the same hours in a day.
Yeah, right. My big thing is, and I used to work with celebrities and people are like, oh my God, how are you working with celebrities? And I was like, I just say to myself, this person goes to the loo like everybody else. It's disgusting to think about. But I'm like, you know what? They take their phone and they scroll the gram while they're sitting on the dunny just like every other person. We're all just human beings.
That's so true.
And if we treat each other like that, it makes a big difference. I think I think I think a lot of what we've achieved does have to do with, and I say we all the time because my husband is the co-founder of this business and he's the GM, he's the strategy guy, and we have just we've stayed true to the vision and the values of the company are our values that come through. So I think a lot of it does have to do with not buckling, not bending, not saying that this is what everyone else in the industry is doing, or not saying that this is what other CEOs or entrepreneurs do or how they behave. We don't put a ping pong table in the office just because that's the buzz thing to do for entrepreneurs, because they're really annoying. So the co-working space we're in now, you're just looking at, has a ping pong table in it. It's really irritating when people are on there. You're trying to be on the phone, you're trying to have a business meeting, and there's whacking back and forth. And I'm looking at these people thinking, like, go back to work. Like, go get your hustle on. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think surrounding ourselves with the greatest of mentors that we could get our hands on has been absolutely amazing. And on a side note with mentors, a mentor doesn't have to be someone that you can pick up the phone and call. So I talk to a lot of early stage startups now. I'm like, how do I find a mentor? How do I do this? Go read a book. That's a mentor. If you can read a book by Richard Branson, use him. That's him mentoring you. You don't have to be able to pick up the phone to have that conversation. Some of the best lessons I've learned have been from Branson, have been from the Steve Jobs biography. Do you want to know how I learned all of my management style? I read that book and I did the opposite of everything Steve Jobs did, because I think despite what he created, he was such an awful human being to his staff members that I don't want to be like him. That's a mentor. That's being mentored. So we've surrounded ourselves with amazing people from all levels of business, from all levels of life, and kind of brought that all together and overlaid our own values and our own thoughts and our own gut feelings to create what we have today.
That's amazing. That was a really good answer, by the way. You sort of threw me back a
little
bit.
Thanks.
So if you could go back in time then and speak to sort of 21-year-old you, what would you have to, would you want to start something like this earlier? Or do you really place importance on what you learned throughout your career prior to doing something like this?
Yeah, I would not change a thing. That's
amazing.
I mean, there are lessons, right? Everything is a lesson. But if I changed anything, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I'm so aligned with what I'm doing that I know that I'm in the right place. I know that where I am now is exactly where I need to be where I want to go. And if I did not have any of those lessons, if I didn't have this shitty job with the shitty pay and the shitty environment, but learning a great work ethic, I wouldn't be able to apply that to what I'm doing now. If I hadn't had the really crappy relationship that I had for so long, I wouldn't understand love and what it's supposed to be, and I wouldn't have the amazing marriage that I have right now. So I don't regret anything. I wouldn't change anything. The only thing I would say to myself is, you've got this. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Just, I listened to your podcast with Mark Orchard this morning, such a fucking amazing man. And he talked about resilience and perseverance. And if you can have those two things, if you can channel them and harness them, you'll be successful. It might not be in what you think that you're going to do, but they are the two keys, I think, to entrepreneurship. And I would just say to myself, you have these things, just keep using them.
Yeah. Is that a similar case? Because I know you don't like the word purpose, but I'll use it anyway in context.
I think it's just because one of my mentors, actually, I love him to pieces, but he uses it every 5 seconds. It drives me insane.
Purpose. Do you think that's also the key to finding your purpose as well, as just staying resilient and keep doing as much as you possibly can, and then inevitably something will fall on your path?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked me that, because it was literally 8 months ago I was at a networking event, and the person speaking was talking about finding your why and being on purpose, and that's how you know you're doing the right thing. And at the end, they're like, does anyone have any questions? And I said to her, I've been hearing about being on purpose and knowing your why and all these things for like 5 years, and that's great, but how the fuck do you find it? Because I've been searching for a long time now, and I couldn't find it, and I didn't know what it was. And it wasn't until it would have been 7 months ago that I woke up one day so excited to go and do my job that I realized that I was on purpose, that I had found my thing. And as it turns out, I had felt really unaligned with Nourish'd and Caveman Kitchen for a really long time, because I felt like I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm passionate about the nutrition and the wellness side of things, but I'm not so connected with that I feel like that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. But now bringing in a couple of new team members and setting the direction for the company and where it's going to go and seeing there is a viable way for it to get there, I've realized that my purpose is to lead a business to great things. So, I believe that what we're doing is wonderful and is contributing to the world, but finding my why was about realizing that I don't want to be a multi-millionaire. If that's a byproduct of what I'm doing, amazing, and that will be such a great legacy to leave for my family and a way for me to contribute in other ways. But I want to grow something into existence that doesn't currently exist, that is amazing, that I've done. That's kind of how I found it. So I would just say to anyone that stop trying to look for this magic formula for finding it. It doesn't exist, and stop listening to people that fucking tell you that it does, because it doesn't. Just keep trying, keep working at things, keep trying new things, and one day you'll wake up and it will feel right, and you'll just know. And it's taken me, 5 years in this business, and in reality I've been working since I was 19, so what's that, 13 years to...
Three
3 years. What are you talking about? To find it, and I am so aware that could go away at any time, and that I'll need to find it again. So I'm reveling in it while I have it.
Oh, absolutely! You have to revel in it when it's those short bursts, and you've got to absorb it for all it's got. What's your long-term strategy with Nourish'd, if you don't mind speaking about it, in terms of where do you see yourself sort of going in the 1, 3, 5 year sort of mark?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I just talked about this with Mark a couple of nights ago, and I was like, I don't know, man. So we're going into a capital raise at the moment. This will be our first cap raise. So we have bootstrapped the company for the last 5 years to get where we have, which has made a freaking amazing foundation, some great customers, some great lessons along the way. And we really feel like now we have refined the customer journey, we've refined the product, the foundation is strong, and I need to stop being scared of taking it to the next level, scared of asking for outside help, and with investment comes responsibility to other people.
So true.
And I got over it basically and said, we need to do this. Again, that came from mentors. I listened to a podcast with Janine Ellis, who of course is a great mentor for me because she's been in the food industry for so long. She started something from scratch. And she basically said, you will never grow your business if you don't take outside investment, because everything you need to spend money on now, you're not going to recoup for a certain amount of time. So I need at least 3 business development managers. I need at least 3 more customer care. I need the CRM to support all of that. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't have sitting in the bank right now. So if I don't spend it, though, we'll never grow. So the goal for the next 12 months is to go into that capital raise, bring some cash into the business, hire all those people. We recently expanded our audience into the NDIS market, which is the National Disability Insurance Scheme.
Oh, wow.
So it's been so amazing. That has been part of me finding some alignment as well. So we've been able to say, okay, yes, we contribute really great to affluent people's lives. But now I have this market of people who all of a sudden have access to services beyond Meals on Wheels, which has a great service but a really shitty product. People that for the most part are living on the poverty line, people that are lonely, and we get to contribute to their lives with really great customer care. So our number one value as a company is that we're humans before we're numbers. So we're super data driven. Everything we do is driven by our data, all of our strategy, all of our direction. But having that number one value in there, that we're humans before we're numbers, means if a customer calls us up on a Friday after cut-off time, they've made an order that's coming the next week, and they say, I've been made redundant and I can't afford this anymore. Of course I'm going to give them their money back. I'm not going to say to them, sorry mate, official cut-off was 24 hours ago, tough shit. And my staff are empowered to do that because that's our number one value. So when we talk about NDIS customers, we obviously have a goal for how long we're on the phone with a customer, because that's taking up time that we could be doing a whole host of things. If an NDIS customer needs 20 minutes to talk to one of my team because that's the only person they're going to interact with that week, absolutely. You take that 20 minutes. Is that scalable? Fuck no. But we're going to make it work. And so that's been a really amazing market to go into. commercially a really great idea as well, because it's huge and it's only growing. So that's kind of part of the future for Nourish'd. The next 3 years, we really want to build out the team. We want to have a customer call center team. We want to have our BDMs built out. I really want to be able to step out of doing a lot of the technician roles that I still do and leading the company and growing the company. Personally, I want to move much more into a public speaking circuit, which is what every entrepreneur wants to do. But if you said to me, you know, where does your heart belong? Where does your soul belong? What are the things that you can do that just make those two things sing in unison? Just being on stage and talking to people. I just love it. I love it. And every time I do it, I walk off and I'm like, why don't I do more of this? So contributing back to the startup ecosystem, I'm working with Wandering Cooks at the moment, which is a food startup incubator that won a grant to work with women in food startups. So many food startups are created by women and they don't get off the ground. And there are so many reasons for that. And I'm super excited to go in and work with them to teach them some resilience and some things about being unapologetic and how to present yourself in meetings. And because this is a super male-dominated industry, I have learned so many lessons along the way. Very recently, even still, my default is to is to ask my husband to take meetings with suppliers if I know that's going to be men, because they'll listen to him. Whereas as soon as I walk in, this barrier goes up.
Do you legitimately find that as well? When
and I hate it because I was never like a woman in business person. I was never going to go into that. That was never going to be my jam. But you can literally see the walls go up.
Seriously?
If my husband and I sit in a meeting with a supplier, they will talk to him before they'll talk to me. And I tend to do most of the talking because I'm much more extroverted in those kind of situations than he is. But even if I ask a question, they answer it talking to him.
Wow. And that's not even really necessarily them being rude. That's just their natural programming.
It's just natural.
That's what makes it even worse, I guess,
because they're just used to being in those male-dominated environments, and I don't know if it makes them uncomfortable or if they don't want to seem aggressive coming back because I am a woman. And it's like, dude, just give the same. Give the same level of what you're getting. I want to work with women on preparing them to go into those meetings, but I also really want to work with guys as well to just switch those unconscious biases around a little bit. I pitched an article the other day to a business section of a newspaper, and it was about women in food business, and I went through and I picked out like 13 meal delivery companies, meals and meal kits, and of the 13 there were 2 that were run by women, mine being one, and the other was another Brisbane base, but all of the rest, and the most successful ones, HelloFresh, Marley Spoon, 5.4, U-Foods, all male created and male run companies, which I found really interesting. Yeah,
for sure. Do you know, with the backgrounds of the other people that have created them, are they usually chefs or?
Some are and some aren't. One of the, I said before that I know of 8 companies that have not survived in the last 18 months in the meal delivery space. And most of these companies are started by people that live in more revenue land. So they might have a sales background and marketing background. So they're really looking at top line. I obviously have a sales and marketing background as well. So a lot of my energies were focused there when we started up. Whereas Dave, my husband and co-founder, has a background in operations for multi-billion-dollar companies. So he is really focused on the operational margins and the efficiencies in that, which I think has allowed us to survive through this time while we're bootstrapping and we're not growing the revenue side of things super fast in a U-Food style manner. We still have a bottom line and it's still positive. Whereas, I think for a lot of other companies that hasn't been the case. And I do wonder about some of the bigger ones that are doing massive revenues, whose goals are clearly market share and kicking mad revenue goals year on year on year. I wonder about their bottom line and are their operational efficiencies sound.
That would be an interesting sort of look, hey?
Yeah, and they're all private companies, so you have no sort of data. The most I know is that the ready-to-eat meal industry in Australia is worth $600 million. That's all I got.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So someone's taken home something somewhere.
Yeah, bloody HelloFresh. those guys are kicking some revenue goals. I mean, U-Foods have done amazingly. They're only a year older than we are.
Wow.
And they're massive.
Everywhere.
They're absolutely huge. But just because a company is massive, it doesn't tell the whole story. I mean, look at Donut Time. I was watching Donut Time 18 months ago or 2 years ago, and I remember saying to Dave, why are they growing so much faster than we are? It was so depressing.
It seemed like they were absolutely fucking
killing it, right? New store.
Yeah.
Next minute, they're gone because they had no operational common sense. So, yeah, what you see on the surface is not always what's going on underneath. And in my industry that's like peaked massively in the last 5 years, and there's 1,000 players in it. It's starting to settle. The dust is starting to settle on that. And we're so grateful to have survived and thrived through that. And I've seen some really good growth already this year. So hopefully that keeps going.
I'm sure it will. It is interesting because I know for a lot of those other guys or the competitors that we spoke about, I've either been on them or my friends have been on them, and it's been very short-lived. The retention for me was, I think, 2 weeks. My friend lasted a month, and it's just, they were either really nice tasting, or they were really small portion size, or they were larger portion size and not very nice tasting at all, or it was just plain processed shit, basically. And I never found that perfect middle ground that you guys seem to sort of play in.
Yes.
So it's
you totally need to order from us.
I will. So it's interesting because it seems like, it is a saturated industry, but on the same token, it's not really saturated with good. It's saturated with crap.
Yeah, so, it's quantity over quality.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that there are probably some decent ones out there. I think not everyone. I think a lot of the ones that are in there at the moment serve a purpose. YouFoods is a really great price point at $9.95. We're considerably more expensive than they are. And they're super convenient. You can order and have a delivery within 24 hours, or they're at your local supermarket. So they have consistency in saturation.
Yeah.
Yes. But I personally as well found the portion sizes didn't work for me, and there was a lot of processed things in there that I just physically couldn't digest. So
they tasted great. They honestly, YouFoods tasted amazing.
Yeah.
But for me, the biggest part was the portion size. It was just, and that was, 300 calories a meal. That's just not sustainable.
It's not working for you.
No.
Yeah, and so that's why we kind of wanted to be everything to everyone as much as we could. For the price point, it doesn't work for a lot of people. Although a lot of the reviews that we're getting through now of people saying, I was concerned because it is more expensive, but actually what I get for my dollar is so much better. So when you work it out, it depends on the portion size you get, but when you work out dollar per calorie, you pay less for our meals than you do for YouFoods.
And these are healthy calories as well.
They are amazingly healthy calories.
Yeah.
My favourite part of what we do, because I obviously eat the food, I'm a terrible cook. No one lets me in the kitchen. My favourite part is that from a health perspective, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to pick up the meal and read the ingredients list or look at what's the macro breakdown or how many calories am I consuming, because everything is a meat, a vegetable, a nut, a seed, or a fruit. That is it.
Yeah.
And it's just made into something delicious. And I think people over the last 30 years in particular, it's like, no, that couldn't possibly taste good because you haven't added in this, or there's not salt and all these added things. But actually real food is fucking delicious.
Real food is delicious. And it's not till you get away from like McDonald's and shit do you realize that it actually is delicious.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I remember when I was a larger set individual, let's say, when I loved a good session on World of Warcraft. Like I remember eating vegetables and thinking like, fuck, this tastes like cardboard. And now I try to live an extremely healthy lifestyle, and now I eat vegetables, and I've still got friends that are like, why are you eating fucking vegetables all the time?
They taste so
bad. It tastes good. Like they genuinely, like I can taste the sweetness in carrots now because I'm not eating high processed shit all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and then obviously the rare times that I do eat the high processed shit, it's like the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
But it's still it's all about that balance, and yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. We one of our customer avatars is around that weight loss segment, and so we really try to educate people around that, because we're super conscious that people aren't going to stay with us forever, particularly people on a weight loss journey. So we try to educate them as much as we can as we go. Again, being customer focused, not ourselves focused. And so we talk to a lot of people that are coming from a very different diet, processed food diet, about how we just need you to stick with it for 3 weeks. And that's not a money grab. It's because your taste buds need that time to turn around. So I had a lady call up, your food's bland. It all tastes the same. The second someone says that, I know they're coming from a processed food diet, because there are people, you might not like our food and that's fine. That's a personal preference. but there's physically no way that a chicken Caesar salad could taste the same as a Szechuan chicken.
Yeah.
There's no way it could possibly taste the same. It's not possible. So when she says that to me, I know that her taste buds have nothing left. They've been so hammered by processed crap that she literally can't taste anything. And it was this one woman in particular that I remember. And I said, stick with it. I need you to stick with it for 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, I call her up. How you going? Oh my God, there's so much flavour in everything. I didn't know that broccoli had flavour. She didn't know that broccoli had flavour. Mind blowing. So, yeah, to take that back to, I guess, what we were talking about before, I truly believe that we have a unique selling point in this industry of a lot that don't. So people have their place. Youfoodz has their place in this sort of convenient, on the scale of health, they're not the worst by any stretch of the market. So they're a really great sort of area. There's a couple that do meals specifically for bodybuilders. That's great. We do find bodybuilders aren't necessarily getting the carb content that they need from us because we don't put rice in. In saying that, we're getting a lot more clean bodybuilders coming on board that want to do what they do without eating kind of processed carbohydrates.
Yeah.
In that, I think that I truly believe that we're the only premium product on the market, which is an amazing place to be. And for this cap raise, I'm putting together my pitch deck and I did a competitor analysis and the list is like going and going and going and going. There are so many out there.
Yeah.
But one of my columns is this premium? And I could not tick that box for a single other supplier. So if anyone's listening and you're thinking about creating a premium product, you're like, I don't want to because I'm not price competitive. Price is not the only thing you compete on.
No, not at all.
It is just one factor among so many. If price was everything, Apple wouldn't exist.
You think Louis Vuitton gives a shit about
price?
Right,
exactly. And so by focusing on our product and our service and saying to people, yes, we're more expensive, but you get the value back in the quality of the meats, in the quality of the locally sourced fruit and veg that we put in the fact that you can call up a customer service agent and they will bend over backwards to make our system work for you rather than making you work for our system. It totally works.
There's a level of irony there as well that people are willing to spend so much money on literally, like, they'll spend $4,000 on a laptop like we were talking about before. I'm going to get the next MacBook Pro. Yet as soon as it comes to their meals, they want, the cheapest, most convenient thing. It makes no sense to me. Like your body. I mean, technically is your temple, right? Like, why would you not want to put in good quality fuel yet you care about a fucking handbag?
I know,
like,
right?
How is that even a fair comparison?
Someone might say, "Oh my God, it's $13 for a meal." Yeah, but if you went into a restaurant, it would be $18, and I'm going to deliver it to your door.
Have you been to a pub recently? Like, I had a pub steak the other night. It was like $39. I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong, but
good.
Still $39 though. Like, crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to entrepreneurship, I guess. What if someone was looking to get into business, not necessarily the food business? Top tips that you'd have? I know you said resilience was one of the biggest things. Just a couple of really top tips.
Yeah, don't ever think that resilience isn't a skill that can be learned. Is a really great tip. That can't be learned. You can learn resilience mostly through doing, but it's just pushing through that pain barrier. So when you come up against a wall and it hurts, instead of saying too hard and backing off, I like to say to myself, what is the challenge here and how is it going to help you grow? And if I get to the point where it's like, well, it's not going to help me grow, then back the fuck off. Why are you doing it? Don't do something that hurts for no reason. My number 2 personal value is challenge, because I truly believe that inviting challenge into my life makes me a better person every day. So anytime a challenge comes my way, I completely accept that it's there because I invited it in. That's not a manifesting thing. I'm not down with this whole you manifest it and it will happen. But if a really big business challenge comes up, I can't make payroll this week, how am I going to do that? Well, that exists because I started a business. I invited that in. And what is that going to teach me and how am I going to grow? So that's definitely one. One of the questions you asked Mark was, does he feel that a type of person is an entrepreneur, that you have to have these certain personality types to be an entrepreneur? And I think absolutely not. Your personality, the things that you can't change. I can't change the fact that I'm actually surprisingly super introverted, and large social settings make me very anxious.
Yet you love being on stage.
I know, because that's a me to many, and there's not kind of the interaction that you get in, say, a networking event where, you know, when I'm on stage, I'm just giving what I choose to give.
Yeah.
Whereas in a social setting with multiple people are trying to draw things out of me that I might not necessarily be comfortable giving. In saying that, I put myself in those situations all the time because I believe in pushing your comfort
of course
zone. But yeah, there are things about my personality that I can't change. I can't change that I'm very quick to frustrate. But what I can change are my behaviors and how I deal with that. So I think perseverance is a behavior, and I think resilience is a behavior, and I think that they are skills that anyone can learn. If being an entrepreneur was about your personality, Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't be, like, him and I, completely different personalities. How could we both be successful if that's what it was about? So I think if you're starting out and you think that you are not an entrepreneur, you're not worthy of being an entrepreneur, fuck that. Do you want to be? Is that where your pull is? Is that what makes your gut feel like it's on fire and where you want to be? Then sure, go and be there. Find some mentors. Learn the behaviors you need to exhibit to excel at what you do.
I don't want to go on too long, but on the topic of finding mentors, how would you recommend people find the first? I have asked this a few times in previous interviews, but it's always interesting getting different spins on how to find their first mentor. And I know you mentioned the books, but...
I went to, and I still go to, a lot of networking events. Like, honestly, just follow River City Labs and Fishburners and Little Tokyo, or wherever you are, the co-working spaces near you, and look at the events that are on. Particularly the ones where people are speaking. And I go along to a lot of those, and I would say 90% of them, I see the people speaking and I can take something away. But I think, you know what, you're probably not who I would choose to spend my time with in a mentorship capacity. And if somebody is, then I really push my comfort zone and I'll reach out to them and say, can I buy you a coffee, or can I take you out for lunch? Always be so respectful of the other person's time. I decline a lot of requests for me to come and meet with people because people disrespect my time. Like, I'm a mum and I'm a CEO, and I want to give back. That's part of my purpose in life is to give back to community. So somebody comes to me and says, I would really love to buy you a coffee. There's a good one to start with because we all drink coffee. And I would like to ask you these questions. They've thought about me. They've thought about what I might know. They've thought about what they might like to gain from that. And I'm more than happy to do that. If somebody just contacts me and says, hey, I'm just looking for a mentor, what do you think? Well, sorry, mate. I'm not going to invest the time in you if you haven't invested the time in me to start with. I had a girl email me in the middle of December and say, hey, you know, I'm thinking about starting something similar over in Perth. Would you be happy to have a conversation with me about how you started? And I went back to her and said, yep, that's absolutely no worries. I have no space right now, but send me through a calendar invite for the end of January. Never heard from her again. Don't go in expecting that if you're going to ask somebody to help you that they're just going to immediately drop everything to do that. Show them the respect first.
Sure.
And I think that they'll show it back to you, and have a reason as well. Don't just say, hey, you've been really successful, so I want to talk to you. You know, the CEO of River City Labs, Peter Ellis, I think her surname is so amazing, and I have a girl crush on her a little bit, and I would love for her to be one of my mentors. But I have not found the angle yet. So I haven't asked her, because why would I? She's a mum of 3. She's the CEO of a great company that's doing massive things at the moment. So for me to sit down and say, hey, will you have a coffee? Well, why would she do that? No. When I find the angle, I will go in and I'll ask her, and I'll say to her, I've been wanting to do this for a really long time. Yeah. So will you do that? Others come about more organically. You know, I joined the Entourage, which is a school for entrepreneurs, in 2015. I rejoined again a couple of years ago and did another program with them, and their founder and CEO, Jack Delosa, who is an amazing Australian entrepreneur, has done huge things. He's like constantly on the BRW Rich list, and he's running the entrepreneur show on Your Money now, and it's just a really, really amazing mentor. We just kind of started this relationship when I started going to this business school, and now he's a guy that I can text and say, dude, I need some advice. have you got 5 and can you help me? I literally last week did that. I was like, I've got a meeting with an investor coming up. You know this investor. Can I have 5 minutes of your time? This is what I'm going to ask you, and when works for you. Sweet. He's like, yep, I've got 1:30 on Friday. You need to call me and you've got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I showed him the respect that he deserves, and I made sure that call stuck to 10 minutes. And then afterwards, I wrote him a thank you note that's in the post to him right now. So I don't know if that answered the question on how to get mentors.
No, it definitely did.
So much as how to treat them.
No, but people, that's the thing. And you've got to, like, when you're at a stage where you can't add much value, especially to these higher profile individuals and whatnot, you've got to be ultra respectful, because at the end of the day, if there's nothing you can offer them, then why should they give up their time? I mean, it's a give and take world, like, and that's just how it is. And these people, literally, to get 5 minutes of their day is hard, especially if they've got a family and everything like that at home. So that's why I've found a lot with this podcast. Everyone's like, oh, but the people keep rescheduling and whatnot. Isn't that annoying? It's like, no, these are business owners.
Yeah.
If they have to reschedule, business comes first, and I completely understand that. Of course, business comes first.
Yeah.
So it really is about respecting them, understanding that, you know, what your 5 minutes is not the same as what their 5 minutes is right now.
Yeah.
And just kind of, you know, if they say, give me a calendar invite for the end of January, it might sound far away, but that's going to come up quick as.
It's now the end of January.
Exactly.
We could have had that meeting last week.
Exactly. And she could have gotten so much out of that meeting, but instead she's like, oh, well, stuff it. If she can't give me 5 minutes of her time during December when she has a family,
I don't want to talk to her.
I don't want to talk to her. It's, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you can show someone that respect, every entrepreneur I've ever met that's in the stage that I'm at or kind of beyond that, they want to give back.
Yeah, 100%.
None of us are such big assholes that we don't want to see this ecosystem grow. And, you know, even this is such a great relationship. The intro that you had from somebody else that you've interviewed because you showed them respect. And I've got a couple of people that I'm going to be hooking you up with after this, because I think that they'll be so great on here. And both of those I met through other people hooking me up. So, you know, it's this great network of people that give back. It can be a little tricky to get into, but once you're in and you show that respect that people deserve, and I've just said respect 1,000 times.
At least it wasn't purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree. It's hard to crack into, but once you're in, so much floods, right? Right now with the podcast, the first few were really hard to get, and now I have so many in the backlog, and I'm absolutely loving it.
And aren't you glad you persisted with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You didn't say, oh, there's that wall, it's too hard, somebody else, no one else is doing this thing, no one's replying to me.
Yeah.
Well, how about instead of saying no one's replying to me, it's like, what am I doing that's not getting the reply?
Yeah, why am I not offering enough value? And that's how I see sort of every relationship in my life. It's like, if something's gone wrong, then why haven't I offered enough value? Like, stop flipping it on everyone else. It's on you.
It's such a great way to think. The opposite of the victim mentality. It needs a name. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Well, that's because everyone's just too busy in the victim mentality. They don't want to give it a name. I will ask the final and almighty question that I ask everyone. Mm-hmm. Biggest failure you've had, and sort of what came of it, and it does humanize this amazing process.
Yeah, I fucked up so badly it was almost 12 months ago. And we knew that we needed to change our courier company, and we knew that we needed to change up drastically the way we did our manufacturing. And in all my wisdom, I decided to make both of those changes in the same week. Wow. Yeah, I'm a very fuck it, just do it kind of person.
Rebranding in a night, so.
Yeah, yeah. And that has worked super well for a bunch of things in the past. For the rebrand, for starting the business, for saying, here's my website 6 weeks after we came up with the idea, let's just put it out there and see if it works. So we got to prove our business model before we spent a ton of money on it. So the fuck it, just do it model works a lot of the time, but it's super high risk. And I knew that this was super high risk, but I was so cocky about how many times it had worked in the past. And it failed miserably. Like, thousands in refunds over 3 months, tens of thousands of dollars. Wow. We lost because I pushed the courier company faster than they were ready to go, and they told me that. And I push people way past their comfort zones. It's one of my skills, I think, as a CEO. And most of the time that works out really well, and some other time it really fucking fails. And in this case, pushing that courier company before they were ready was a fail, particularly given the company we were with at the time, whilst their values didn't align with us at all and I could no longer, in good conscience, keep working with them, we didn't need to leave them straight away because the end result for our customer was sort of good enough. So that was an epic failure, and doing that at the same time as drastically changing up our manufacturing meant that our customers got this double whammy of really shit deliveries and not great product.
What do you mean by shit deliveries through the courier? Did they just sort of rustle it around a little bit so shit was everywhere?
Wrong address, dropped the box, lost the box.
Oh my God.
Delivered 5 days late.
The late delivery, because you pushed them far, you would understand. But if dropping boxes and stuff like that, like that's just shit.
Yeah, essentially what happened was we forced them to hire staff quicker than they should have. So they weren't hiring people who had value alignment. There's a whole other podcast episode. And they weren't hiring people that had the skill that they needed to just jump in and do the job. They also weren't willing to work with us to improve their staff. So when we work with suppliers, we like to tell them, we'll come in and help you. We'll help you set up the systems that we need to make it better for us, and we'll ultimately make it better for all of your customers as well. And one of my biggest frustrations with any company is ego, and people's egos getting in the way. Oh no, we don't need you to come in and do that. And I'm like, guys, I'm literally giving you this resource. So saying before, my husband's background is in commercial, operational management for multi-billion-dollar companies. If I'm saying to you, I'm going to give you this resource that is worth $1,600 a day for free to come in and work with you on your operations and on how your staff can do things more efficiently, more effectively, and with a better result, fucking take it. Don't let your ego say, no, you don't know my industry. No, you don't know my business. No, you couldn't possibly help in a useful way. So yeah, that was our sort of issue with the courier. And then from a manufacturing perspective, the actual food was still really great. But it was the packaging that we switched up, and we didn't do enough testing on the new packaging.
Just appearance-wise, or?
No, couldn't withstand the rigor of being delivered.
Oh,
so
wow. So
like seals were popping back, and containers were cracking, and it was a nightmare, and it put so much pressure on my customer care team because they've gone from having these really wonderful customers that love us and are brand ambassadors to being abused. There were some amazing opportunities in there. I sent out a letter to our entire customer base that was just an apology, a personal apology from me, which from a PR perspective was really great, and I got to interact with some of our customers, and the amount of people that wrote back and just said, you're doing a wonderful job and thank you so much for reaching out. I was at a point where I was going to leave, but I'll stick with you, or I'll come back in a month when you've got all this sorted out, was truly amazing. But from a mistake point of view, our retention tanked. Thank God we didn't have people going in making reviews, because we still had such great customer service that people didn't give us really shit reviews online. But retention wise, we really lost a lot. So we're still recovering from that. I never play what if, because Jesus, if we had just done this then, or if I hadn't done that then, or if I hadn't made this mistake, we could be in a vastly different position than we are now. But the same goes for all the good things we did. If we hadn't done that, we wouldn't be where we are now. So that would 100% be the biggest mistake I have ever made in business, that cost us a significant amount of money, significant amount of brand loyalty, and sort of damaged the name a little bit. But we survived.
You did, and you got through it stronger as well.
Yeah, you learn a lesson from everything. The most important thing is to decide what lesson is that. So when we made another significant manufacturing change recently, and I was pushing for that to move along, I would continually check in with Dave, he's our GM, he manages the manufacturing side of things, and say to him, am I pushing this too hard? Am I pushing this too hard? And at one point I was, and at another point I wasn't. Because people never want to move fast. They never want to move fast.
No.
And so pushing people can be a really great thing to do. You just have to know what the threshold is.
It's interesting with pushing fast, because if you push fast as an entrepreneur, you make more, you get more for your company, whatever it is. If you push fast as an employee, then you kind of, you're in the same boat, so you may as well take it slow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember working for government years and years ago, and I was told, you're finished by 1. Can you please slow down so you can have a full day, because you can't be seen on Facebook or anything? And I was like, okay, but it drove me mental. How do you like these were very simple exercises. Like I just graduated uni, it was all admin work, and being told that to open letters slower, being told to do data entry slower, it blew my mind. I did not know that's how the workforce was.
The concept of the 9-to-5 workday, again, that's like another podcast that requires beer. Fucking drives me insane.
It does, yeah.
Here's the things I need to do, and how fast can I get them done in a way that's going to be amazing. Not, I need to get them done over 8 hours. My customer care team finish work at 1 o'clock on Fridays, so long as they've got everything done. Because why, if it's done, why should they sit here? That's ridiculous.
I wish I knew the company name, because it's a company in Brazil and they literally have it open 24 hours. You buzz in or whatever. And obviously some roles, can't do it because you've got to be there for the customers, etc. But other roles, if you do your job, you can come in whenever the hell you want. You can leave whenever the hell you want. And that's how it should be. Like if you are hired for a role and you can smash that role and do extra in your time, then you should be able to come in whenever you want and leave whenever you want.
Yeah.
But I guess the problem is here, you do that to people that are used to slacking off. They're going to take the worst advantage of it possible.
Yeah, people will take the piss, and we've definitely had staff that have done that.
Yeah.
You let them go.
Yeah, it has to be done.
If their values don't align, you can't change that.
Especially, obviously this is at all times, but especially when you're bootstrapping as well. Like, you're not the government with, I wouldn't say an endless sort of money, but you're not but you're not a government that, can go into a big deficit or anything like that. The deficit is bankruptcy for startups.
Yeah, wastage is not an option.
No.
Wastage is not an option.
Not at all. Any final things that you'd like to add? Let people know where they can follow your business, let people know where they can purchase from you, all those sorts of things?
You can Google Nourish'd. It's not a sales pitch for me. If it sounds interesting, Google Nourish'd. Check it out, see what you think. Talk to our customer care team because they're awesome. Occasionally you'll get me on there. Customer care don't like me coming in too much because I actually give away way too much for free. I'm like, here, have a free meal, have a refund. They're like, Abbey, our KPIs. The one thing I guess I would love to add, because it is the best piece of business advice I ever got. I read it in a book somewhere. Is that the biggest problem entrepreneurs have is that they think they shouldn't have any problems. And as soon as I realized that was so true, I stopped being tired. I stopped coming into work thinking, oh my God, this to-do list, I'm never going to get through it. You know what? You are never going to get through it, because if you do, you don't have a job and you don't have a business. If you don't have a challenge, if you don't have things you're trying to overcome, things you're trying to change, things you're trying to grow into, you don't have a business. So the biggest problem people have is that they think they shouldn't have any problems. Let that sink in and just change your perspective on every day that you go into work.
Not even just work, life,
right?
If life is like, this concept of heaven, right? And if heaven is you can have whatever you want whenever you want, then it's obviously hell. Because if you don't have to go down these slumps, if you don't have to work to get to get anything, and I've said this once again in a previous interview, but look at child stars in Hollywood and look at how they turn out. There's a reason they turn to heroin and whatnot, because literally nothing in life is a challenge anymore. Yeah,
so. I just don't think you can grow without challenge, and I don't think challenge has to be, this massive thing all the time. I've had massive challenges. The first person in my life to die happened 2 years ago. How fortunate is that to get to 29 years and never have had anyone in your life die? But that's amazing. A massive challenge to overcome any death in your life. Yeah. That's huge. But challenge doesn't always have to be that big. For some days, challenge for me is not losing my shit at my 2-year-old when she has a tantrum over something stupid. That's a tiny challenge, but it's something that's helping me grow every day.
That's resilience.
I'm getting better at it. But I just think if you don't have the opportunity to grow in life, you're sitting in that mediocre, numb space, and fuck that.
Mediocrity is death.
Yeah, totally agree.
Thank you so much for coming on. You have been absolutely amazing.
Thanks for having me. I know that I've way over talked here, so I think you've got some editing ahead of you.
I won't be editing a thing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and jump over to lessonsfromsuccess.com.au and make sure you jump on that email list so I can notify you as soon as any more shows come out. I'm your host, Bryn Turner, and thank you so much for joining us.